What's going on, everybody? James back with another video, and today we're going to be installing the AddW1 Pro Series dual blow-off valve set that AddW1 was so kind enough to ship out to me. Really quick, great customer service, and they look amazing. Now I'll walk you through my process as I remove the original recirculating valve setup and replace that with my new atmospheric venting blow-off valve setup. I am very excited, and I think they sound incredible. So you'll need a few tools. Primarily, you'll need a set of pliers and a 10mm socket or wrench. The first thing I did when removing my original setup was getting all the hose clamps into a more ideal location. This way I could remove those recirculating lines easily from the intakes. On the passenger side, on my InGens, it's a little tricky to get to that one hose clamp, but not the end of the world. I'll show you a little trick a little bit later. Now let's get right into it and start moving these hose clamps. So like I mentioned before, I do have a tip for those of you who also have an InGen intake setup. That one hose clamp over there that clips the recirculating tube to the intake is pretty tough to get to from the front of the engine bay. So my recommendation would be to stand right next to the passenger side wheel, basically leaning over the fender, and you'll have a whole lot more space to get to that hose clamp, and it's much less awkward. So now that I've got most of the clips moved into a place that I'm, happy with them being, I'm going to go ahead and start unbolting these 8 bolts. They are a 10mm bolt, so a socket or a wrench either will work fine. Whatever you can fit in there. It's not exactly the most spacious, and then everything just comes right out. One thing that they do not provide in the kit when you purchase is the gasket that seals the actual mount to the merge pipe. So what you're going to want to do is, as you can see right there, it's got an empty spot for it. You're going to go ahead and remove that from the OEM setup. The one part that I did not film was me seating the blow-off valves in the mounts. You have to compress a snap ring with these special pliers and then put everything together all at once. This tool is quite literally called a snap ring plier, and you can pick it up at any AutoZone. So now that we have everything removed and the new valves are seated properly in the new mounts, I'm going to go ahead and start bolting everything in. But other than this part with the snap rings, everything was very straightforward. Honestly, the snap rings were the most difficult part of this install, and that is because I tried to install them without the right tool at first. Once the recirculating setup is removed, you are going to need to cap off those inlet valves that originally allowed the old air to circle back into the intake system. And it's just a 1-inch rubber chair leg cover. AddW1 is kind enough to include 2 of them with your kit when you purchase. Some people like to clamp these down. Personally, I felt it wasn't very necessary. It's on there really well, and the wrinkle texture of my intake gives it grip, plus it's not a positive pressure zone. Alright, that's it. Install complete. So as you can see here, I've got all my new lines routed out, everything's mounted in place, everything is tightened down, and I have all my hoses fastened as I feel is, completely necessary. You'll see I put the inline filter in there and then zip tied everything up to keep all the lines out of the way, keep them away from the belt. And unfortunately, I had to makeshift some hose clamps with zip ties because the flange on the fitting was just a bit too large to fit the hose clamps over. But I'm happy with it, and I think it looks good. Everything's holding on very well, and yeah. And now that the install is complete, you're just going to want to go ahead and adjust your blow-off valve's piston tension as necessary. If you watched my product review, you'll remember that I mentioned it is very easy to adjust. All you need is an Allen key. I'm not entirely sure what size it is, but it was in pretty much every set that I had, so it seems to be a pretty standard size. All you're going to do is you're going to take the Allen key and insert it into that hex screw on the top of the blow-off valve. And if you notice, you'll see it says soft and hard and directs you which way to turn. Softer will require less pressure to activate the piston, whereas hard will require more pressure to activate the piston. Every car is a little different, so you're going to want to play around with it. It took me about 5 minutes to find the perfect setting and to find something that I was truly happy with. At the end of the video, there'll be a little clip that I've included that will show you exactly what it's supposed to sound like when you rev at idle, and the sound you want to hear. That clip does not do the true volume of the blow-off valves justice, but you do get to hear the tone and what they sound like. If you enjoyed the video, please drop a comment, like, follow, subscribe. Check me out on all other platforms at V2 Stinger.